Spotlight.
This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you an exclusive interview with High Commissioner of India to Malaysia, B.N. Reddy, on the eve of Prime Minister's visit to Malaysia. The interviewer is Durgesh Bhadoria, Akashvani correspondent.
The Prime Minister's visit to Malaysia at this stage of India-Malaysia relationship, and what are the key strategic priorities India is looking to advance through this visit?
Thank you, Durgesh, for this interview. We are speaking on the eve of the arrival of Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, to Malaysia on an official visit. This is significant, in a sense quite historic in many ways. I think it's useful to first understand the context in which this visit is happening. Only then we can talk about the other objectives and strategic outcomes we are looking at. The first and the foremost is, this is the third visit of Honorable Prime Minister of India to Malaysia. More so, first visit after India and Malaysia have elevated the bilateral relations to comprehensive strategic partnership that was in August of 2024. Now, by very definition, a relationship of that nature has many facets. It is a recognition that the both governments would like engagement to happen in as wide a number of areas as possible, because India has with very select few countries such a partnership called Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. This is also a recognition of the fact that for India, Malaysia is a key partner in our own larger India's Act East policy, which has now entered the second decade. Similarly, we have this vision of Mahasagar as well as our own larger Indo-Pacific vision. So looking at all these priorities that are going to come into the visit would be first and the foremost is to seek a review the implementation of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership announced in August of 2024. It is in this context both the leaders and the delegations would be reflecting on how the relationship has widened in areas that were identified earlier. These are very diverse areas. As you know, trade and investments is one side. Then you have looking at the larger economic cooperation. Then moving into the emerging areas, emerging technologies, be it the digital economy or digital technologies implementation in the growth. Then we have the semiconductors, AI, startups, fintechs, moving into renewable energy, and also areas which are considered very important are the education, healthcare, and also the people-to-people connect. By very fact that Malaysia has the second largest PIO community in the world and the third largest Indian diaspora, the significance of the people-to-people connect would be looked at very closely in this visit. In fact, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, will be speaking to the Indian community, wherein the community has extended an invitation for our Prime Minister to speak, to address them. This is called Salamat Datang Modi ji, which in local language, Bhasa, Malaysia, it's called Welcome Modi ji, at which we expected to have 15,000 people in audience. Interestingly, and also very pleasantly, we are aware that Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, His Excellency Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, has also be joining, addressing at the Indian community even tomorrow. This alone indicates the fact that the people-to-people relationship is very important, a recognition that both leaders of India and Malaysia are presenting to the world. Second, of course, is in terms of looking at the strategic partnership, comprehensive strategic partnership. There will be deliberations on how to significantly move in the security cooperation, because India and Malaysia have established security dialogue last year for the first time at the level of national security advisors. Similarly, Malaysia-India Digital Council has been established, which is the G2G mechanism, wherein 4 pillars have been under discussion, where the first meeting of it at the level of our secretary and his counterpart happened last year. We are looking at the digital public infrastructure, cyber security, then artificial intelligence and digital capacity building or digital talent. So in all these areas, there will be again discussions in this visit also to further deepen this understanding and identify more initiatives. Let me take the area of semiconductors, for example. Malaysia has been in the forefront of semiconductor manufacturing for the last 4 decades. They have, particularly in the testing and packaging, they have developed significant competence. They have as we have launched India Semiconductor Mission in India, there is a significant synergy between the two countries and the semiconductor industry collaborations, wherein the Malaysian 3,000 odd Malaysian companies which have developed core competence in supporting the global semicon majors. They'll be looking at working with the Indian companies to establish joint ventures to widen the ancillary units in India, so that the ecosystem for semiconductor manufacturing can be sort of amplified and take a leapfrog. So similarly, we have in the renewable energy sector, Malaysian companies, particularly Gentari, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Petronas. They are also looking at greater investments in India. Already $5 billion, I think, have been committed. They're looking at several other aspects of renewable energy, quite apart from solar, green hydrogen, then looking at EV, electric vehicles, and various other aspects. As the collaboration moves from, while the traditional areas continue to grow, we are looking at bringing in this new and emerging technology-based sectors for greater interaction. That would be, I think, one of the priorities identified for this visit, and we hope to see some announcements at the end of the visit on at least making progress in these sectors. And last but not the least, as I said, the collaboration in other areas, which is be it education, tourism promotion, healthcare, as well as much wider issues of interest relating to both countries' interests will be certainly examined, and both leaders will provide the necessary guidance and instruction for the respective delegations to follow up on this.
So very briefly, how is India playing a role in strengthening bilateral ties between India and Malaysia?
Well, Indian diaspora indeed plays a very important role. As I said earlier, the fact that both leaders are going to go and address the Indian community is indeed a clear signal that the Indian diaspora would be factored in our engagements in future in much more intense way. Number two, as you know, Malaysia has the second largest POA community and the third largest diaspora in the world, makes it all the more important for us to bring in that cultural heritage to serve as a bridge. As the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji mentions very often, that this is a living bridge for us to be strengthened, and it is here, quite apart from traditional emotional engagement, there will be substantial things about OCA cards, the sixth generation being extended to the sixth generation of Indian origin people in Malaysia, and also significant liberalization of the documentation procedures to enable more and more Malaysian Indians to acquire the OCA cards. This is one. Similarly, we are looking at academic exchanges rooted in our Indian traditions, particularly Thiruvalluvar, great philosopher, saint and poet, who has produced this marvelous Thirukkural work, and some of the studies that are flowing out of that can come into the academic excellence here, wherein we are looking at collaborations happening in that sector also. And last but not the least, and important I call it, how the Indian diaspora, as Honorable Prime Minister of India has frequently mentioned, they can be made part of India's journey to Viksit Bharat, and it is in this journey, what are the areas that we need to focus on, that also will come under discussion in this visit.
Listeners, we just heard an exclusive interview with Indian High Commissioner to Malaysia, Mr. B.N. Reddy. He spoke on various subjects to take this program forward. I am now joined by Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, and we will decode the significance of Prime Minister's upcoming visit to Malaysia. Ambassador Chakravarti, welcome to Akashvani News.
Thank you very much for having me.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Malaysia on 7th and 8th of February, that is tomorrow and day after tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. This would be the third visit of Prime Minister to Malaysia and the first after the elevation of India-Malaysia bilateral relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. This happened in August 2024. He will hold talks with the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Ambassador Chakravarti, before we delve deep into the discussion, I would like to understand from you, how is this visit important not just for our partnership with Malaysia, but also for the ASEAN as a whole?
Well, for India, ASEAN is a very important trading partner. Our bilateral trade is between ASEAN countries. There are 10 of them. And India is over $100 billion. We also have a free trade agreement, which we are trying to review now, so that we can expand the markets that are available to us. ASEAN has been growing quite fast in terms of economic growth, and Malaysia is one of them. It's an important country, the third largest sort of trading partner in ASEAN with India. So I think, and there are of course people of Indian origin, plus we share a maritime border in the Bay of Bengal near the Andaman Sea, and there's the Malacca Straits, which is a very important waterway. So there are a lot of factors, economic and geopolitical, that bring the two countries together. And I think this is a great opportunity to sort of encourage and take forward the bilateral ties that we have built up over the years.
Ambassador Chakravarti, you highlighted a couple of points and I would like to decode each one of them with you. But first of all, I would like to understand, you mentioned that strategically Malaysia is extremely important for India, and we also are connected with them not just through ASEAN but our Vision Mahasagar. That is also something which India shares with Malaysia. So could you highlight what exactly Mission Mahasagar is and how is the strategic importance of Malaysia for India?
The Mahasagar initiative is basically led by the Indian Navy, and it is about security and growth. In other words, providing security which is essential for growth. And it is basically to deal with all the countries which are in the Indo-Pacific and with whom we share maritime, this maritime domain. And this maritime domain is very important because 60% of the world's trade goes through the Indian Ocean sea lanes of communication. So I think these are all, and Malacca Strait is another very important waterway, sea lane, which carries all this trade. So these are some of the issues that India has been sort of promoting for cooperation between all these countries who share India's vision of security and growth in the Indo-Pacific. So I think this is important because this brings together all these countries who all have a common sort of a perception on security, how to keep the maritime domain safe, because trade is very important for all these countries, and to enable that it is not disrupted in any way. This is basically the objective of Mahasagar.
Ambassador Chakravarti, one very important point which comes between India and Malaysia is the trade, of course. And Malaysia is India's third largest trading partner in ASEAN with a bilateral trade around $20 billion. Trade is high on agenda for the Prime Minister's visit. What do you have to say about it?
Trade is indeed very important given the world situation now, the global situation, because after the issues, the tariff war, so to speak, unleashed by President Trump, every country now is trying to get into trading deals with different countries. India itself has done, I think, 6 or 7 trade agreements with different countries. The latest one was with the EU, and I think now the other with the US also. Hence, trade will be important, and in bilateral trade, how to increase it, and where are the problems, how to have manufacturing facilities, how to build more supply chains. India will be looking at all this, and Malaysia is important from that aspect because Malaysia is part of the supply chains and manufacturing various items like semiconductors, which we want also to manufacture in India. Plus, I think cooperation in cyberspace will be on the agenda. And the future is basically digital and cyberspace, artificial intelligence. So every country wants to be there on that same page where we can cooperate and raise our skills and deal with some of these emerging and technologies in the digital domain.
Also, Ambassador Chakravarti, a lot of emphasis is on the people-to-people ties in this visit of the Prime Minister. We have that around 2.9 million people in Malaysia stay, which represents the second largest people of Indian origin community and the third largest Indian diaspora there, where Prime Minister is expected to interact with them. What are the steps which have been taken to enhance these people-to-people ties and strengthen it further?
Well, yes, you're right. It has a very large Indian community of Indian origin, and the OCI cards which Government of India gives to people of Indian origin is an important document which enables people to travel visa-free to India, and when they come to India, they can invest in India, buy property in India. There are various facilities that are extended to OCI card holders, and naturally the government, Prime Minister Modi has always emphasized that the connect with the Indian diaspora is a very important one because they naturally regard India as their original homeland, and this is a part of, I suppose, our soft power as well. We have to facilitate their travel, which we have done. There is now visa-free travel, and we have to facilitate or encourage them to come to India to maybe invest or to bring their companies here to do business with India. So it's an all-out effort to basically engage the Indian community, which is very large in Malaysia. And we would like them to come to India and to invest and to trade with India and to generally, contribute to our tourism as well. And I think the number of flights that have been increased shows that many more people are traveling between the two countries. So I think this is a domain where a lot of progress can be achieved.
In the coming days, Ambassador Chakravarti, we'll keep following the visit of Prime Minister to Malaysia. Thank you for joining us for Spotlight tonight.
Thank you.
You were listening to an exclusive interview with High Commissioner of India to Malaysia, B.N. Reddy, on the eve of Prime Minister's visit to Malaysia. The interviewer was Durgesh Bhadoria, Akashvani correspondent.
Spotlight.